My wife and I were married for 10 years. Our anniversary party was coming up, and I couldn't believe I was lucky enough to find someone to be with for so long. We knew everything about each other and were best friends. Our zodiac signs were soulmates, so maybe that explains it. I did see that her sign can be known for cheating, but I ignored that, and for 10 years it was fine. We had a daughter 3 years into our marriage. My wife worked the same career all those years, and she was about to receive her biggest raise yet, just before our planned summer family vacation. It really seemed like I found true love and would always have her. The night she got home from getting her raise, she was flustered and blown away at the good news. She acted like it hadn't sunk in yet. I thought I saw an expression on her face that looked blown away and worried about something. I asked if she was having trouble believing her own success, and she forced a laugh and said yeah. She wasn't convincing me. I knew something else was going on, but when I tried asking, she said she was fine and only pleasantly surprised. I didn't know what else to say, but her cheating on me did not cross my mind. Then she said something weird. Before she went into our bedroom, she said her boss is incredible and she was lucky he likes her so much. This made me do a double take. It sounded weird, and I think she realized she slipped by saying it that way. The next day was the same day as our anniversary party. As we got ready, she got a phone call, and it was her boss. She dismissed herself to talk in the office, which she normally did, so she could write stuff down for later. Unbeknownst to my wife, I snuck right up against the door to listen to their conversation. At first, she just thanked him again for the raise, and then she got really quiet. She whispered that she was glad she could thank him properly, that he was really amazing, and that she wanted to feel him again. Then she asked him if there were any security cameras that could see into his office. She was quiet for a beat, then said that was good because no one could find out what they were doing or they'd be fired. I was putting together a pretty clear picture in my head. I wanted to barge into the room and tell her I heard everything, but I decided to make an announcement at our anniversary party. I had to do something that would force me to follow through with confronting her and divorcing her. I was sure she just confirmed out loud that she slept with her boss in his office. I stood paralyzed outside the door until she came out. She was really worried I was standing so close. She was trying to figure out if I was okay, but I just plastered on this fake smile. She asked if I was ready, and we left. I was like a zombie, and she was antsy. She only smokes cigarettes when she's really stressed out, and on the way there she lit one. She tried asking me again if I was okay, and I know she really wanted to ask if I heard her conversation. We arrived at the venue, and I turned to her to say, "Let's go celebrate our 10-year marriage, wife." I sounded like a robot in the absence of anger, and she knew I heard them, but she couldn't bring herself to talk to me about it. We went inside, and she sat there sweating until I got up to give a speech. I let her sit there for a while, taking my time to calmly greet our friends and family and pretend everything was fine. Our 7-year-old was there too. She was at my parents' for the week to give my wife, and I timed to ourselves as an anniversary present. Seeing all of our loved ones and daughter made my wife start itching herself a lot. She looked like she was going through withdrawals. Her face was red, and people actually started circling her, saying she didn't look good. She swore she was fine, but people could see her skin was slick with sweat. I took this as an opportunity. I told everyone in a loud and clear voice that my wife was having an affair with her boss. Everyone gasped, and my wife fainted. Since our family and friends aren't heartless, they started fanning her and got a cold cloth for her forehead. The old-fashioned thing to do, I guess. When she came to, she was so ashamed she couldn't speak. She finally said she wanted to go home, and I asked her what home. She started bawling and ran to the bathroom. I thanked everyone for coming and picked up my daughter and took her home. We were in bed while my wife called a few times. 2 other people called, but I didn't hear any of it because I was asleep. I think I felt so content that I found out the truth before long and followed through with kicking her out. I found out later that one of my wife's cousins let her stay at her house. That wasn't all that was going to change, though. I emailed their company's HR about what happened. They got back to me a week later, thanking me for the information and informing me proper action was taken. My wife called me first. She said I was a low slime bag for ruining her and her boss's careers that they worked towards their whole life. I told her she was a low slime bag for ruining our marriage after I worked hard for her and our daughter for 10 years of my life. How could she ever look up to her mother again? I didn't hear from her until visitation with our daughter started after our divorce. I've already found a woman with a daughter of her own that's done things for me my ex never would have considered, but it's bittersweet because I realized I wasted a lot of time trusting her. OP, I am sorry your wife made the dishonorable decision to sleep with her boss as a thank you for a raise, and that she had the nerve to talk to him on the phone about it behind your back. She obviously didn't realize the magnitude of her mistake, and that they wouldn't get away with this consequence-free. I'm glad to hear what steps you took to get her out of your life and own up to her mistake. She deserved every minute she felt uncomfortable or sick because of her actions. She didn't consider you or her daughter, who looked to her for an example of how a woman and wife behaves. It's a shame, and I am glad you have a second chance at living life with a better, more trustworthy woman. I wish you all the best with your situation. Now let's get into our second story for today. My wife, 35, of 2 years, had been working as a college professor for a few years when this story took place. She had worked hard for several years to get this job, and she had every right to be proud of herself. Her parents certainly were. She had a huge graduation and new job party with the whole family in town. We even waited to get married per her request so that she could ensure her dream job. This was what she was all about, and I couldn't imagine her doing anything that would jeopardize her job or our future together. But I wouldn't be here today if she didn't. She became good friends with some of her students. They were in their late 20s, so they were similar enough in age, but I did think it was a little weird that she was friends with them while also being their professor. It didn't seem like a very professional choice, but I hesitated to tell her my opinion. She actually went to some of the parties they had. As far as what she told me, it was more like a group get-together, much more chill than a party. She said they even discussed some of the lesson topics with her because that's just how passionate and focused her students were. I just let it keep happening. I really wish I would have tried to convince her to stop mixing her dream job with pleasure, but she was so happy. She really was on top of the world and felt like she was making a difference in their lives. She always came home at a reasonable time because she didn't want to leave me alone all night, and she never went out more than 2 times a month. I knew something was wrong when she stayed out until 2 a.m. I was awake and waiting for her, and we had a fight. She said she was just helping her students, but this was unacceptable to me. I demanded to know what was really going on, but she wouldn't say anything different. I asked her not to socialize with students for a while, and she freaked out. She called me controlling and started crying. She claimed to be a responsible woman that deserved to live her life freely, especially when she found someone that made her so happy. My eyes went wide. She quickly corrected herself to say something and said she was mixing up words because I was confronting her and she was tired. I was so concerned by her mistaken wording, but I didn't have it in me to argue anymore that night. I couldn't ask her to take off work, either. I wasn't sure how or when I was going to bring this up again. I knew I should, but I thought I'd just wait to see what else she was going to do. For a while, everything calmed down. She didn't stay out and only went to work and came home. It was great, but she still had to grade papers at home, and for that I left her alone to study. I then walked in on her texting someone, and it made her jump out of her skin. That was weird, but I didn't draw attention to it. I thought about checking her phone later, but she had a code on it. I decided I was going to set up an opportunity for her to bring students to the house, but I'd secretly be hiding nearby. I needed to know who these people were, and if something else was going on. She fell for it super quickly. As soon as I said I was going to spend an evening with my mom in the nursing home, she was thrilled. She said I was so sweet for going, and offered to give me a ride and then pick me up later. To throw her off, I agreed and walked back to the house. It took 20 minutes. I wasn't sure what I was going to find, but I still had trouble picturing my wife doing anything less than honorable. A few times I told myself I was crazy and started walking back to my mom, but then I turned back around again. When I got there, I could see a different car outside her house. She expected to have all the time she needed to do whatever she wanted and then come pick me up. Seeing the mystery car fueled me, and I ran to the front door. I unlocked it with shaking hands and saw the most disturbing thing I'd ever seen. My wife was having sex with her student. Before either of them put their pants on, I took a picture. It's a high-tech world now. I took my phone out when I saw the mystery car, so I'd be prepared to take a picture of whatever my wife was up to. If it was all good, I would have been the crazy one, but now she was. It all started to hit me after she got her pants on and her student ran outside. She started yelling God knows what while my head started pounding. I could only hear my heartbeat as I thought about how our marriage was over, and the future I expected to have with her was a false hope. Her career was over. She'd never be allowed to teach at this school again. The next school would want to know why she was fired from this school. I snapped out of it and demanded to know why she risked everything she worked so hard to build for one of the first students she ever had. She stared at me blankly and then said he asked her to hang out with him and she didn't expect anything bad to happen. I started yelling when I said something bad has definitely happened. She brought him to our house and opened her legs. She started flipping me off and screaming at me, saying it wasn't her fault, and I stopped them from finishing, so it shouldn't even count. My jaw dropped. I told her she was so shockingly wrong in her logic that I couldn't even argue with her. I packed my bags and got a hotel room. I didn't feel like arguing with her anymore that night about who was going to be the one to leave. It felt like I was talking to a spoiled brat that expected to get away with this because of everything she accomplished prior to it. I was not going to stick around, and I wasn't going to let her keep her job either. I filed for divorce and sent the picture to the president of the college. Just as I suspected, she was fired. She hated me and could not look me in the eye at any of our future interactions. I never saw her eyes again. She went from a confident, flawless, overachieving woman to one of shame and disgrace. Her parents couldn't even believe it and actually asked me to send them the picture. I did reluctantly. They apologized to me. My wife didn't work for any colleges in the state. After waiting a few years, she moved out of state, probably because she couldn't get a job no matter where she applied. I have started dating again, but I will not be quick to believe I know someone's personality or that they'll remain trustworthy at all times. OP, I am so sorry your wife betrayed you by bringing one of her students into your house and sleeping with him. It's despicable, and I can only imagine how surprised you were. Given how hard she had to work to get this job and how happy she was, you would have thought she'd be able to make the honorable choice not to risk her marriage or job. I congratulate you for taking the steps you needed to, knowing when you had to leave, filing for divorce, and showing the college president evidence of what she'd done. She had so much support and a great future ahead of her, and she flushed it down the toilet because she couldn't resist one of the first men she encountered as a professor. Thank you all for taking the time to listen to today's stories. If you enjoyed listening, please feel free to like and subscribe if you haven't already. Also, comment below with your thoughts on what happened. Take care.